Anybody else?
Yeah.
Did you find yourself having to maybe tone down some religious themes or ideas in order to appeal to the broad base that ABC wants to attract? Or
This was actually on CBS.
oh, CBS, sorry.
No, I didn't. I never really addressed the audience. What I do is I decide that I am the audience because I think I am, and that my rule for myself is always that it has to be within the realm of my storytelling truthful, and I can't assert anything that I don't feel to be sort of universally true to the human experience or universally common to the human experience. So the only thing that I did to sidestep that at all is that there were times when I simply avoided talking about a religious issue or something like that, simply because when you decide to take something like that on, it's really big, you know, and you have to really be prepared for it. I got into an argument early on because we did have a Catholic priest character and we had a rabbi character. And we had scenes where Grace's father is a rabbi. So we had a lot of scenes where the religious issues were discussed. And early on, I was getting my current favorite note, which is, you know, the religion of our times, actually, if it isn't the Green Movement, which is a religion of our times, is spiritual, not religious. That is the catchphrase. You hear it everywhere. And so everybody wanted spiritual, not religious. So they didn't want any religion depicted. And I found that fascinating because we aren't choosing a religion. We're just sort of talking about religion. And I'm much more disturbed by the idea of people not having a religious education than a religious position. And so, you know, I said to them early on, there's no way I'm doing a show about God and not mentioning religion. You know, we're not choosing one. We're just sort of saying, here's this religion, here's that. We would have eventually gotten to all the religions. I wanted to do Islam, I wanted to do, you know, all, you know, sort of offshoots religion. We did Quaker. But I really wanted to have the discussion of religion. It makes people nervous. But I really felt it was a much less interesting show. I just think it's so fascinating that in this world that we're living in, the idea that you can ignore religion. It's fascinating to me. So,
Barbara, thanks for the series. I watched it in detail because I'm going to be writing about it. And I do like Kevin. Joan was the primary protagonist, but I appreciated Kevin because he embodied a certain kind of hope and ethical responsibility. He wasn't as involved in the battle of good versus evil in the way that some of his other family members were. And I have to admit that one of the things that I loved most about Kevin was his relationship with Rebecca, which is played by Sydney Poitier.
Yes.
Yeah. And how that opened up a discussion around race and disability. And yet I was also saddened to see her departure, and I was wondering if you could lend any insight as to what happened there and why that happened.
I can't remember why that relationship ended. I loved her, loved working with her.
Well, Kevin cheated with one of his
That's right. But I think that we decided, I can't remember where we went with Kevin and his relationship. We wanted him to...
Beth resurfaced.
Yes, he started having an affair with the nun. That's right. Yeah, I liked that too. I liked the idea to back up a little bit and to talk about issues of Christ figures and things like that. One of the themes of the show is death and resurrection, that everything is death and resurrection, using the Christ imagery as a metaphor and not as a literalism. Joan deals with life on earth. Joan doesn't deal with the afterlife. We almost never talk about what happens after death. And I used to have these discussions with reporters where they would say, well, your show is about the afterlife. And I would go, no, it's not. Have you seen it? We never talk about it. I wanted to talk about God and religion as tools for living. Somehow the concept of religion has been hijacked to only be about the afterlife. And really, most religions are set up to give you tools for living. It's living we're confused about. It's not dying. That's easy, you know. And so that was one of the things, the theme of it was the idea that Kevin has died to himself. You know, he's an invalid now. Old Kevin is dead. You have to start recreating. And so, and the ongoing question from God to everybody in the show was, what are you going to do now? The idea that that is the ongoing question in you and your life. no matter what happened. And that's the way we rise above a victim mentality, that, you know, society of victims, is that everything that happens to you, the next question is, what are you going to do now? Whether you've been paralyzed or killed someone, the question is, what are you going to do now? That is what brings meaning to your experience. So Kevin tried for 5 minutes to be a victim in her presence, and she was able to use her race as an example of, yeah, I tried to go there too, you know, but we're not going there. Because it's not as interesting a journey, it's not in the interest of our highest potential to do that. So, the idea, it's very much in this episode, the idea that there are gifts in pain, that there are gifts in struggle and sacrifice, again, is a Christological idea. It's you know, because the whole Christ story is, you know, you can't suffer more than Christ did, and he still got up. If you wanted to just take that story as a metaphor and not, you know, then and you could only use it as a metaphor and still understand the rule of living, is that you can't take it far enough where it's no longer your job to get up again. And so the idea, what I kind of flirted with in there, and I didn't, and by the way, this is a message that can make people really angry if you don't come at them the right way, because people are very identified with their pain. And when people are not ready to be identified beyond their pain and their suffering, they just do not want to hear there are gifts in pain, you know, and so you have to be very careful how you say that. One of the things I tried to depict both visually, well not me, but the director and I talked about this, is that their life, the flashbacks, and them as people are less good. They're a less happy family in the past. Everything looked fine, but the colors are slightly darker. It's a little drabber. They're fighting all the time. They are less deep as individuals. And so we kind of wanted to show that this tragedy has happened. It doesn't make them regret it any less, but we get to see that they found the gifts in pain and sacrifice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.